Hey everyone, this is my Neuroscience of Awareness blog, and this week I'm going to define emotion so I can then go into the definition of integration. So before I go there, I want to talk about Lisa Barrett's theory of constructed emotion, which basically says that we create emotions based on our bodily sensations. She calls it body budgeting or your limbic regions. But I'm going to start with a series of quotes so you can understand it. Interoception is like being aware of those body sensations. So I started out my blog having you put your arms up like this. And as you did that, you would start to get the feeling like you wanted to lower your arms. And that's interoception. Okay, you can see the definition there on the screen, but it's better to just feel it. So interoception is the origin of feeling. So an emotion is your brain's creation of what your bodily sensations mean in relation to what is going on in the world around you. And she just gives an example that I'm going to name. Judges, right before lunch, when they're hungry, are more likely to deny a prisoner parole. And because what they'll think is they'll have these bodily sensations of hunger, but what they'll think is, oh, I'm having this intuition that this is a dangerous criminal. So this is why, as we begin to think about what's going on with our body sensations, we can realize that our brain can trick us. And she says in her book, there's no such thing as affective realism, where there is actually one way that we can report that a person is feeling, because we're always perceiving emotions based on the reality that we're creating, and that perception is informed by our bodily sensations. So this is the most important quote for the whole presentation today. When we have an emotion, we used to think there were these 6 universal emotions, and I don't think that's true. I think her theory makes more sense. Basically, when we're born, we have, it's called valence. We're all the way from pleasant to unpleasant, and then we're on a spectrum, it's called affect, from kind of low arousal or calm all the way to high arousal or agitation. And you're going to see my window of tolerance talking about that. But that all the emotions, and then you can think in the very middle is there no intensity, and going out is full intensity on this circle. And all we need to know is that whatever label you have, so then you have like millions or tens of thousands of emotion words on this chart of what's pleasant and unpleasant. Like there's happiness, that instead of getting a speeding ticket, you got a warning. Like that's a specific type of happiness. And then you have happiness when you graduated college. So your brain has like so many different instances of the different emotions. It's not as simple as you think, and they all come from conceptualizations. And the reason why that's important and why I'm sharing it with you is if you have one particular emotion, like this is the default mode, the rumination that appears in your life over and over and over again, what the information I'm sharing with you enables you to do is to differentiate from that emotion, whatever series of snapshots you have about what that emotion means. And I'm sure you experience that emotion partially as a sensation in your body, maybe a tightness in your throat or something if you're thinking of a negative emotion, but that you can change whatever that conceptualization that you have, you can change it. So I've been doing it with anger. I notice I have a real narrow expression of anger when I experience it, but now I've been able to change it because I realize it's just a series of different snapshots that I've accumulated about what anger is, how I experience it in my body, and then how I express it. But because those are all just concepts in my head, I can easily just change the concepts. So knowing that I'm having these body sensations and my brain is making the choice to interpret them, that gives you the freedom to put a space between what you have been interpreting them as and then what you decide in the future you want them to be. And memory reconsolidation helps with that process. So every thought, memory, emotion, perception you have has to do with interoception. So this is why interoception, you're tracking your body sensations, is so key to brain integration, and why I'm going to keep bringing it in this blog. An emotion, I told you that one before. So now I'm going to end with the neurobiology definition of an emotion, just so we can all be on the same page. So an emotion is a shift such that you either, if it's a downshift in integration, So if you shift down, you go into rigidity or chaos. And if you shift up, you have more positive emotions. So you've got this emotional intensity, you'll see her on the chart. And what happens is if you get really, 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 really stressed out. So let's define an emotion in neurobiology. Let's say you have anger, and your anger is in your window of tolerance, and then suddenly you flip your lid and you start screaming or you say things you don't want. Then what happens is you're in chaos. So that emotion is just a downshift in your level of integration, because you were in your window of tolerance, then you fell out, you went on a riverbank of rigidity. So I'm going to give one other example and then I'll stop and we'll do much more on this because I'm just beginning the platform. Let's say you're in you're so angry, you're on that riverbank of chaos, you're in a high state of arousal or agitation, and what you do is you take a pause, you cultivate response flexibility, you name it to tame it. You say, Heidi is feeling anger. So you name yourself in third person and you label what's going on, not I am anger. So you become more than, you name it to tame it. A feeling is not a fact. You go in the other room, you look in the mirror, you rub your jaw. By looking at yourself in the mirror, that engages the social engagement system. You can do like something like Satanama, Satanama. Then you think it. Then you whisper it again. Then you sing it. Satanama. So that's a specific practice. You could do it for a few minutes, but you notice your heart rate goes down. So that has just been a shift up in your level of integration by doing that. Then you go back in the room. You now notice that you have, not only do you now have response flexibility, where you can pause between impulse and action, but you have access to insight. Oh, I was really getting triggered because this. You have access to empathy. Okay, this person said this thing that they know irritates me because this. You have access to those higher functions because your emotion has gone from being in the riverbank of chaos, and it's back on that river of brain integration, which is that window of tolerance. So that's just a brief example of what emotion is. It's basically arousal, and also arousal that, like in terms of emotional intensity, specifically relating to what's going on with the sensations in your body. So I'll name a couple more examples just so you can think about this. They've done studies where they put a pencil on someone's lip right here, and in order to hold it up, they have to frown and read a story. And what they find is that people tend to report a neutral story as being sad because they're frowning as they hold the pencil up. So it's just another example that when we have, and then they've also done studies where they injected someone with adrenaline and they didn't know, and the person will interpret a neutral story as being either fearful or agitating. So those are examples how our body sensations lead us to interpret with emotion, and that emotion is an increase in integration, and that's usually a more positive emotion, or an emotion is a downshift in integration, and that results in rigidity or chaos manifestations.